The film canister was the only thing the search team brought back. 24 exposures. The first 23 were taken by a hiker named Marcus Reiner. The 24th wasn't. Before we get into it, if this is your first time around the fire with me, do an old ranger a favor. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. A like and a share helps these stories find the folks who need to hear them. Every one of you keeps me telling these. Now, settle in. This is The Last Ranger, Story 19. I worked the Bob Marshall Wilderness for 11 seasons. 1,000,000 acres of country, give or take. No roads, no cell service. The kind of place a man can disappear in for a week on purpose, or forever by accident. In the fall of 2009, a hiker named Marcus Reiner did the second one. He was 36, solo backpacker, 7 years of experience, the right gear, the right paperwork. He filed his itinerary at the Spotted Bear Ranger Station on a Tuesday morning. 6-day loop through the South Fork drainage, out by Sunday night. Sunday came. He didn't. Monday, his sister called from Missoula. By Wednesday, we had a search team in the air. Searches in the Bob are different than what people picture. You don't get tracking dogs in that country, not really. You don't get drones. You get rangers on horseback, volunteer SAR on foot, and a fixed-wing aircraft running grid patterns over 1,000,000 acres of timber that all looks identical from 1,000 feet up. We searched for 9 days. On day 6, a SAR volunteer named Cooper found Marcus's tent. It was pitched in a meadow 4 miles off his planned route, off trail. No fire ring, no food waste, no sign of a struggle. His pack was inside, leaning against the back wall. Sleeping bag rolled, stove packed, water filter clean and dry. The tent was zipped shut from the outside. You can do that, by the way. Tuck the zipper pull through the loop and pull it down from outside the tent. It's not impossible. It's just not what someone does at the end of a long day in the backcountry. Inside the pack, on top of his folded base layers, was a camera. Not a phone. An actual film camera. A Pentax K1000. Marcus's sister told us later he'd carried one on every trip since college. He liked the slowness of it. 24 shots a roll. Made him think about what he was photographing. The camera was loaded. 24 of 24 exposures used. We logged it as evidence and brought it out with the rest of his gear. The film went to a lab in Kalispell, a small place that still developed 35 millimeter for the old-timers and the tourists. 4 days later, the lab called the ranger station and asked to speak with whoever was handling the case. The technician on the phone was a man named Hal. He'd been developing film for 31 years. He told me, very carefully, that he'd finished the roll, that the prints were ready, and that he would prefer to hand them to me in person. I drove out to Kalispell that afternoon. Hal had laid the prints out on a long counter in the back of his shop, in the order they'd been taken. He didn't say anything when I came in. He just gestured at the row of photographs and stepped back. The first 18 were exactly what you'd expect from a man on a 6-day backpacking trip. The trailhead sign at Spotted Bear. A self-portrait at the start of the loop. Marcus grinning under his pack, beard, ball cap. The kind of picture you take to mark the beginning of a thing. A river crossing. A sunrise from a ridgeline. A close-up of wildflowers. Bear grass. Indian paintbrush. A campsite at the end of day 1, his tent silhouetted against an orange sky. Day 2, more of the same. Day 3. Day 4. The 18th photograph was taken at what we'd later identify as the meadow. The same meadow. Mid-afternoon light, the tent was up, pack leaning against the side. No person in the frame. That's where the photos should have ended. There were 6 more. Photograph 19 was Marcus, asleep, on his side, inside his sleeping bag. The angle was from above and to the left of his head, maybe 2 feet away. The flash had fired. You could see the white burst on the tent wall behind him. He was alone in the tent. The camera had been outside his pack at the time. Somewhere, somehow, with someone holding it. Photograph 20 was Marcus again. Same position, same angle, slightly closer. Photograph 21 was the inside of the tent without him in it. The sleeping bag was empty, unzipped. The flash lit the green nylon walls, a sick fluorescent color. Photograph 22 was taken from outside the tent, looking in, through the partly unzipped door. You could see the empty sleeping bag from a different angle now. The grass in the foreground was wet with dew. Photograph 23 was the meadow, wide shot, dawn light just starting. The tent was still there, zipped shut. There was no one in the frame. And then there was photograph 24. Hal had set the last print face down at the end of the row. He told me quietly that he had developed the rest of the roll without thinking much about it, that the photos had unsettled him. But he'd seen unsettling photos before: hunting accidents, crime scenes, the job. He said he'd flipped the last print over, looked at it for about 10 seconds, and then turned it face down on the counter and not looked at it again. He told me to take my time. I turned the photograph over. It was a self-portrait. Marcus's camera had been held at arm's length, the way you'd hold a phone for a selfie. The frame was tight on a face. The lens had focused correctly. The flash had fired. The face in the photograph was not Marcus. I am not going to describe the face. I will tell you that it was a man's, and that it was not anyone Marcus had been hiking with, because Marcus had been hiking alone. And that whoever was in that photograph was, At the moment they took it, holding Marcus's camera at arm's length in front of their own face, smiling. The sleeping bag was visible behind their shoulder, empty, unzipped. That's all I'll say about it. We never found Marcus Reiner. Not that fall, not the spring after when the snow cleared and we ran the search again. Not in the 11 years between then and the day I retired. As far as I know, he is still out there, somewhere in the Bob. The camera went to his sister eventually, along with the rest of his belongings. The photographs went into an evidence file that I'm told has since been digitized and then misplaced, in the way that things get misplaced when nobody really wants to be the person responsible for them. I kept one print. It is not the last one. I want to be clear about that. The last one I left where it belonged, in the file, with the case. The print I kept is photograph 23. The empty meadow at dawn. Tent zipped shut. No one in the frame. I keep it because it is the last photograph in the sequence that makes sense. The last one a person could have taken. After that one, we cross over into something else. I look at it sometimes, the way the light comes in over the ridge, the fog on the grass. And every now and then I catch myself looking past the tent, into the tree line behind it, trying to see what was standing there, trying to see whether the photograph caught something I missed the first 100 times I looked at it. It hasn't yet, but I keep looking. That's the story. If it stuck with you, do an old ranger a favor. Subscribe so the next one finds you. Share it with somebody who'd want to hear it. These stories only keep getting told if folks like you keep listening. If you have a story, send it in. If you served, you know where to find me. This is the Last Ranger. Stay on the trail. I'll see you at the next one.